All right. Good evening, colleagues. Good evening, everyone. Wherever you're starting or joining us from, welcome to the third edition of the ASFI Science Seminar Series 2023. We are happy to have you joining us this evening. To discuss the topic of today. So welcome, and I believe it's going to be a very good discussion we'll be having this evening. The goal is to get us bringing up ideas and issues that will help us to make a positive trajectory in the growth of our careers as Africans. So welcome again. We have the chat box. Please make good use of it to introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're joining from, your field of research, and of course, other information you would like to add there for us to get to know you better. Just to say that this is also a platform where people connect, make collaboration, and little introduction can open the way for such. All right, so this evening we'll be having discussions around journal publishing in the field of engineering and information technology in Africa. The last edition we had was on medicine, health sciences, and biomedical sciences. So I want to look at the issues that relate to journal publishing in Africa in this field. There are global competitiveness, barriers that are there, and then we look at facilitators, things that can make us to become better. All right, we'll have our capable panel to guide us in this discussion. Before I bring them on board, I would like to say a few words about the platform we have here this evening. So this is the African Science Frontiers Initiatives. We recognize that science in every context and in every historical era, science is an important tool for development. Whether in technology, whether in medicine, whether in social sciences, whether in arts, whether in humanities, all these fields come together using the tool of science and research to make the societies develop in the right way. Africa has not fared enough and in this area, and the contribution of science to the development of Africa. And so the goal of this platform is to see how we can change that narrative to make science and research a prominent part of the developmental discourse of our continent, Africa. So we have as our vision to raise the next generation of African scientists who have the right competencies to drive Africa's developmental and transformational agenda through innovative scientific research. And in doing this, our instrument is excellence. We want to instill excellence in science and in research. And excellence can only come through competence acquisition, capacity building, which all put together help us to grow in our career. It is very important to raise science in Africa that contributes to development of the continent, so that scientists and researchers could formulate questions that have developmental impact. And this requires skills to do this. Our activities, we have seminars, as we have this evening, we'll have workshops, we'll have hands-on trainings, we have mentoring programs, we'll have research activities. All this put together is to ensure that our programs reach those that are meant for in a way that they can utilize the tools we provide to become better in their own areas of endeavor. As at today, since just over 3 years we started, we have had 7 5-day courses. These are hands-on intensive courses in different areas of research to empower people, and we have had over 7,000 applicants, and we have trained over 1,500 applicants from over 40 countries, and that is quite impressive impact we have made so far. And so each year we formulate our theme we work with, and this year we have formulated a theme to be quality, productivity, and impact. Quality, productivity, and impact. And these are important tools, important things, important concepts to ensure that the research that comes from Africa have quality ingredients, and that African researchers can be productive at the same time that they maintain the integrity requirements of research. And then finally, that research that we do have necessary impact ingredients. And the most important is that what we do could have developmental focus. All right. So we have different programs that are going on, all centered around the theme we have proposed for this year. Our courses, our tips and tricks programs, the mentoring, ambassadors, the proposed journal, and the other things, conference and boot camp, all centered around quality, productivity, and impact. For the seminar series we have this evening, and this is a monthly program we have, the last Sunday of each month. We'll have this, and then for the first half of this year, January to this June, we'll be focusing on journal publishing in Africa. We want to survey the landscape of journal publishing and look at different fields. And then the second half of this year, we'll be working on research funding, the issues of research funding in Africa. Yeah, so these are courses we have outlined this year. And because we have set out to work on the issues of quality, impact, productivity, and impact, we had several inquiries, people not really having confidence in their research and how they can ameliorate that. So we had to initiate a course. We'll be running from the 15th of April to the 1st of July. This is a weekend course, Saturdays, 5 to 7 p.m. GMT. The application is still on until the end of this month. So please, if you have not applied, take advantage. This is a very low cost course, very, very and heavily subsidized. For ASFI members, you still have 50% of the cost until the end of this month. So please make use of that. Make use of the opportunity. Don't fail to do that. Because this course is going to land you into the various aspects of the issues of quality, issues of productivity and impact. So please make use of the opportunity provided. If you have not registered, please do so and before the deadline. Yeah, the course advert is there, and we will be looking at the issues across the different stages of the research process, from question formulation until we publish. The issues of quality and impact will be emphasized. All right, for those who have not registered as ASFI members, registration is still ongoing. But if you know, this is an annual membership registration. So if you register late, then it means that you will enjoy your benefits late. You start enjoying it late. So if you have not registered, we invite you to register. Quite impressive things are happening within the membership. They're setting up the structure, and sooner or later you will see that lots of activities are going on with the members. So please join, and when you join, there are quite lots of benefits that are available to members. We are quite impressed by the number of people who are joining this force, and we believe that together we can achieve very admirable things together. All right, members have various discounts throughout our activities, and we will continue to support them in their career. So the idea is to tailor all the activities we have to ensure that members benefit maximally through these activities. The ongoing registration for the courses now, we have subsidy initially 70% for members, and then now it's still 50%. If you're not a member, you pay the full cost for such a course. So being a member offers you lots of benefits. So please make use of that. All right. And the additional things is that being a member, you have opportunity for capacity building, career development, improve your excellence in your research, really to continue to instigate your hunger for excellence. All right. You are empowered. There is room for friendship, collaboration, networking, and ultimately we can all join our forces to make Africa great again. So please take the opportunity to join my colleagues, Dr. Emma Sob and Dr. Ajibola Oladejo. Will be posting the links for different activities and for member registration. All right, so today's seminars will be looking at journal publishing, as earlier said, in the field of engineering and information technology. And I will be introducing the honorable panel. There are supposed to be 3 members of the panel this evening, but the third one just sent message this afternoon that she will be unable to join again. So we have 2 members who will be discussing this, and we are looking forward to very engaging, frank discussion about these issues we have this evening. And of course, you, the audience, please, once the floor is open, let us know your thoughts. Please get involved in this discussion. We want to dig deep into it. Everyone is muted, but once we get through with the input from the panel, we will be opening the floor to everyone to make their input, and then we will allow everyone to, those who are ready to raise their hand and contribute. All right. To introduce the panel this evening, I have with me first Dr. Stephen Oluwashola Maitomi. He is an associate professor of computer science specialization software engineering from Babcock University in Nigeria. He is the Deputy Director of Administration, Babcock University Center for Open Distance E-Learning, called Bukodel. He is also a facilitator of online education in Babcock University. His research interests include medical cyber-physical systems, qualitative and quantitative research, open distance e-learning, and grant writing, and other areas of interest. Dr. Maitomi has published over 50 scientific papers in international journals. He has 2 books he has authored, and he has won some grants. He's a current editor-in-chief of Journal of Computing and Software Engineering, and is a member of editorial board of several other journals. So we are happy to have you, Dr. Maitomi, with us this evening.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, and the second panelist is Dr. Foluke Oladunni Jegede. She's joining us from the Covenant University in Nigeria. Covenant University was once named as the best university in Africa. I don't know where they are now, but I believe that they are still striving for excellence. So she's a trained architect, and she graduated from the University of Technology in Minna in Nigeria. Both her BSc and MSc were derived from that university before she proceeded to Covenant University for her PhD. She worked in various architectural and construction firms. You can understand when I say architecture, it's not common in Nigeria that women are architects. So you must bear that in mind to know that she's a woman of strong mind, a strong heart to venture into this area. Okay, so she's a member of the Nigerian Institute of Architects and is a member of various other professional associations. And she's a member of Organization of Women in Science for the Developing World. Her current position is with Covenant University as a senior lecturer, and she has won several awards to her name. And her research interests include human environmental science, technology, and behavior, housing and urban development technology, urbanization, environmental space management, and defensible space. She teaches a number of courses at government universities, including research methods, architectural design, studio history of architecture, urban settlement, pattern landscaping, and several other courses she teaches there. All right, Dr. Jegede, is privileged to have you also this evening joining us.
Good evening, Prof. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to kick off, and then I will be posing the questions and then getting feedback from our panel. All right, Dr. Maitami, let me start with you. You are the editor of a journal in computing and software engineering. In the area of engineering and information technology, which is the leading journal in Africa? Is it the one you are editing? I mean, leading journal in the area of engineering and information technology.
Well, thank you so much. The one I'm editing is actually about almost 2 years old now. So certainly we are still learning from the masters. Now, in terms of African journals, I think the one leading, in Africa, we have so many of them. I wouldn't say a particular one is leading now, but the forefront of journals are those that publish frequently and where we have massive, followers. So in terms of who is leading, I don't have that, but I think I have the world leading journal, but not the African leading journal in science and technology. And let me shift to the world leading journal in science and technology. If we talk about the world leading journal, which all the African journals actually following, we talk about the IEEE journal, Institute of Electrical Electronic Engineering journal. We talk about ACF, Association of ACM, Association of Computer Machinery. And we talk about other associate journals that are not particularly purely scientific, but are conglomeration of other journals together. So that's what I will say in terms of, position, we don't have one. But in terms of followership, in terms of quality, which we are still going to talk about, we have those ones I've mentioned as the leading journal globally.
All right. Dr. Jegede, do you have input to that?
Thank you, Prof. Actually, we're talking about leading journals and an African-based journal. I would say that we're coming on. It's just of recent that we are having the field of technology journals that are improving every day that are African-based. Previous, we've not been having. Of recent, we have especially collaborating with foreign journals. We see African journals coming up to get higher ratings. So I would say that is an improvement that is ongoing and is a starting point for us. With programs like the one we're having now, it will create a form of awareness whereby we will see improvement and we will see people coming up together to start up journals competing with in the international community. So let me just stop by that. That is an ongoing process, and it's likely that we will see from few years to come African-based journals that are really competing in the international community.
All right.
Thank you,
Dr. Dr. Jegede, just for technicality's sake, I think your video may be compromising your audio. So if you can put off your video so that we can get your audio. Your network is quite shaky, so I think it's best to have just the audio.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me
Doctor. All right. Dr. Maitami, let me come back to you. You said the journal you edit now is 2 years old. There is one journal I found online. It's called the African Journal of Science, Technology, Innovation, and Development. It's actually published by Taylor and Francis. Taylor and Francis. That is a popular publishing house internationally. So being published there, it means that that may be one of the reputable journals in Africa in technology, innovation, and development. But for you as a scientist, how often do you publish in African-based journals in your area of research compared to your hunger to publish in international journals?
Thank you, Prof. That's a very big question, and problematic, I would say. Big question in the sense that, you will agree with me that publishing is something we have a word in academics that you either publish or perish. So publication is something that we should do often, irrespective of the reward, that comes after publication. Unfortunately, I would say that most of the institutions we have right now, in our domain are after international names. You just mentioned one of the best, in UK, which is Taylor and Francis. I have a number of publications under them. And when you talk about institutions, they want to see Taylor and Francis. They want to see your paper, your journals in Schimago. And the moment you are not there, they feel that you are not doing well globally, forgetting that charity begins at home, which I believe with me. I agree with you. So personally, I don't look at the reward, from institution before I publish. I have the taste to publish anywhere, provided the quality of what I'm giving out to the public worth seeing. So I don't consider the reward, because if you have to get promoted, you need to have a number of international papers. And when I mean international paper, peer review, highly peer review, highly impact journals and all that, which must be in some databases, Science Direct, Schimago, and all that. So we have this challenge in Africa that most of the institutions are after the international niche and not considering the number of papers you have in your local areas. However, personally, I do tell students and myself that when you are publishing, you don't publish for the sake of reward. That is promotion. Publish because you need to make impact. You need to make your name, and your ideas go viral. So I have both tastes, locally and internationally. I have made a number of papers international-wise. However, I'm beginning to spread my tentacle in my local domain as we speak.
All right, that's fantastic, Dr. Foluke Jekede. Yeah, you mentioned that in a couple of years we'll be seeing African journals making an impact. From the response Dr. Maitomi gave now, it appears that the taste of African institutions for international journals, international in the sense that they are not African-based journals, the taste for African institutions to see that their staff are publishing in journals that originate from outside Africa. And then you are saying that in a couple of years, we'll see African journals soaring the sky. How do you resolve this conflict? Because I'm not sure whether the tide will change just within 2 years to favor African journals if African institutions eventually want their staff to publish in international journals. I don't know if my question is clear to you, Dr. Jimmy.
Yes. If I get what you are trying to say, Prof, that if that you're not sure, let me reframe the question again, that you're not sure how soon this will be for African-based journal to get recognized like we want it to be. It's not something that is going to be fast, because we know where we are coming from. Some few years ago, we are not seeing what we are seeing now. From a few years ago to, let me say, ASIF is not, FI is not what it is today. So we keep on seeing development. It will not be something that is drastic, but as we move on, we will encourage things that we can make us be what we want the journal, African-based journals to be. Things like more access to fund, grants, and collaborations. These are some of the things that can help to boost how the our journals, African-based, can become more recognized, and whereby researchers too can publish in them. Because some of the issues why researchers, African scientists, are not publishing in our journals are some of the problem you can even say is institutional based, because institutionals believe that probably these journals are not quality enough. So some of the issues of growth are limited. They put emphasis on journals that are foreign. But if at the end of the day, we improve on our quality, because that is the important thing. If the qualities are being improved on, review process are quality based, these are some of the things that will help institutions to recognize these journals, and it will give it a boost. So it's not something that's going to be fast, but
all right.
Gradually,
so it's your perspective is that this is slow and steady.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's Dr.
Dr. Maitomi. In my mind, when internationality is defined in journal publication, it does not really mean journals that originate from the country where the researcher is based. Rather, it indicates the reach of the journal. So you may be in Nigeria and you still have a journal of international repute coming from Nigeria, because its reach goes beyond Nigeria. Now you have a journal you are editing. How easy or how difficult is it for you to get this journal to become an international journal of repute? Given the caveat you have proposed that institutions would like researchers to publish in globally acclaimed journals, how is it for you in this journal you're editing now to get to that level?
Okay, thank you so much, Prof, for the additional question to the previous one. Now, it's quite challenging to start up a journal to start with, okay? Because the standard in our institutions, like my colleague from Covenant University mentioned, years back, we don't lay emphasis on high impact journal that are globally visible, either within or outside the country, like you mentioned, which I agree with you. When you talk about international journal, doesn't mean that it has to come from international bodies or foreign bodies. You just mentioned one of the journals that is published by Taylor and Francis, in the UK. Now, emphasis and standards are higher than what we used to think in African universities. Starting a journal, for instance, if I want Taylor and Francis to take up my journal, number one, the frequency of publication has to be higher than what we have. Right now, we are running on the proposal of having it, quarterly in a year, which means we're going to have, 4 in a year. However, even the 4 issues proposed in a year, we hardly meet up this standard. And the basic challenge is because of the starting level, the low volume level we are having, except for few, including myself, who want to publish and share your idea, not because of the reward. Most people want to publish because of the reward. And almost every intelligent writer, we avoid publishing in a low volume journal. What I mean by low volume, yeah, in volume 1, issue 1. How many of us want to read those, articles from those areas? We consider these journals as a starting up journal that has to develop at least to 10 or 5 and above. So it's a challenge, and we are actually pushing it up. If we can get to at least 5 years, having volume 5 and others or above, then we would be able to get more authors who want to partner with us in writing. So with that, definitely the number and the caliber of authors will increase, and with that we can, try and see if we can collaborate with international bodies to, push this away from the level at which we are. So it's quite a challenge because of the volume of the starting up level we find ourselves.
Okay, I will just keep it there. I will ask you a follow-up question because it's good to really dig deeper into this experiential knowledge you have here. So you are struggling with a number of submissions because that will affect your output, the number of volumes you have in a year, or a number of times you publish. So what is the challenge? Is it that there are no writers, or they write but they want to publish in journals coming from outside? What is the problem there?
Well, the major problem, it's not basically publishing from journals coming from outside the environment, but most authors want to publish from high volume journal. What do I mean by high volume journal? Journals that are 5, 10 years old. No one wants to start up with any starting up journal bodies. That's just a major issue. But gradually, if we can set a standard, and that's why I love, standard has to play, has to come in. If we can set our standard, not playing down because we want volume and because anything that comes in we accept. No, if we can start with a very good standard level and maintain our standard, then whoever reads the output would definitely be compelled to throw 1 or 2 papers to us for collaboration. All right.
Okay. Let me also keep it there for you. As an editor, you must have strategies you use to get people submit to your journals. Can you share that with us? How do you encourage people to look at your journals and to submit to your journal?
Well, we have a lot of I have a lot of colleagues that we work together, and we have various responsibilities. As an IT person, we have those in charge of the social media. We have all our platforms, all the social media platforms are available, and we have those who are running that. And we also have those who are in charge of distribution of emails, what we call unsolicited emails. Okay, you broadcast emails to there are ways of extracting emails, on the public domain. So there are those in charge of that. And one other things we are trying to embark on is also to give out to the public. We are trying to create a webinar that will train people free of charge. However, we would also have to introduce, just like we started with you today, and we have you took us through what the body is all about and how you have been imparting and the mission for a year and all that. So we also have that in mind. And in addition to that, we also, planning to have a conference where we can, subsidize the registration and all that, and help people to build up their content in book of proceedings and the rest of them. And also, I had my postdoc in Andrews University, in Michigan, and that was where the idea came in. I was the assistant editor of Journal of Christian Education, authored by Taylor and Francis. So most of the ideas came from my mentor, Professor Larry Burton, an emeritus professor. So all these are some of the things that we are pushing ahead. However, one of other things that you will agree with me is having like-minded people that have the passion to reach out. When you are pushing up, some of your colleagues may not be able to, hold that tempo of movement with you. And one way or the other, discouragement comes in once in a while, but all the same, progress, is always the objective we have.
All right, thank you for those insights. Dr. Jagger, let me come back to you. The point Dr. Maitomi was making, it seems to be issues many African scientists bring up when you ask them, why don't you publish in African journals? Why do you always go outside? And then they will refer to the issue of promotion, institutional requirement. I'm not sure how strict are these within Covenant University. That is one. The second thing is that a concern for the staff, the academics in Covenant University, in terms of publishing in African journals, and as well as the requirement of having international publication? Is that something that you discuss within your university? And what are some of the things that come up in those forums, those discussions?
Thank you very much, Prof. Actually, from all that we've been saying, we've been talking about quality and thoroughness. For my institution, either the journal they required a quality. You want a journal. Everybody wants a journal that the review process is thorough. So not necessarily that the journal is a foreign-based journal that is domiciled outside of Africa, or it should be an high-rated journal whereby it can contribute. Your publicity is more within such a journal base. So not necessarily that it's Africa or is one that is outside of here. But what is necessary is that it's a quality journal that the review process is thorough. I would say that if we are having a journal that is Africa-based, if we have a process whereby the review is thorough, and it can be based, like we're talking about publishers like Francis and Taylor. When we have a journal that can be through these outlets, my institution doesn't really say, oh, you should be, it should be Africa, it should be foreign, but it should be quality, because that is what the institution actually is striving for. And when you see these the academics themselves wants to publish somewhere that can give them a high rating. When you have journals that are not rated well, which is not Africa, you will go for that, because actually that is what you want. You want something that can give you high rating. So, well, if you can't find that in your field within Africa, you go out. You go outside of what you can see. So if African journals can step up to, like Prof actually said before, that that is the reason why there's a low turnout of people publishing in African-based journal, because they are seeing the volume is very low. But if the volume can be increased, more people will publish there. Institutions too will recognize that, and it's win-win for everybody, both the institution, for the scientists, and the journal itself.
Okay.
Thank you.
In your field, you are into architecture. In your field, do you have a journal of architecture at Covenant University?
No, we don't have.
Nope.
We don't have a journal of architecture.
What about in Nigeria?
Well, we have other journals. Actually, in Nigeria,
Dr. Jegede, we can't
you find in other fields related to architecture. You see a journal in urban planning. You see journals in housing. You see journals, like you have centers in architecture. You have centers that are scattered all over the country that are into different fields. Like I said, I've been collaborating with Center for Housing. You have it in Unilag, and the center has been doing quite a lot. I've been able to publish 2 books with them that we got on the platform of Springer, and I was co-author in those 2 books. And if we have this kind of collaboration within Nigerian universities, like I said, centers like that does, they won't say it's actually housing, but areas in housing, I won't say architecture, but areas in architecture. We have areas like urban planning, housing, urban development, and the rest. So you see centers like that can put a form of journal. And I know, like it's my belief, and I said earlier, that is a starting point. If we go at this pace, we get to where we want to in a matter of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Mike Tommy, let me come back to you. Dr. Jegede mentioned that colleagues are in search of journals that are highly rated, have impact. And you know, the higher you go in terms of rating and impact, the more demanding it is in terms of the quality of work you need to produce to be able to be publishable in those journals. Yeah. But she thinks that colleagues from her area are in search of journals that are highly rated, regardless of whether they are from African institutions or from abroad. From your experience, would that be a discouragement or an encouragement for the African scientists? The demand you have in the internationally renowned journals of high quality work, would that be a discouragement for African scientists to publish in those journals, or it would be an encouragement actually for them?
Well, it's going to be in 2 folds to me. Years before now, before the Nigerian Universities Commission came on board with evaluation of universities, so many publications exist. You know, publishing, sending a paper that within the 2nd day, you get your response that your paper has been accepted. And within 2 days, it will be published. But when competitions, emerged and evaluation came in with good instrument on high impact journal, it became a blessing. It became an encouragement to individual, because personally, I wouldn't want to publish in a mushroom journal that I will send and I expect a feedback within the same week. If I have to read the profile of the publisher, I have to look at the number of rejection, the number of acceptance rate before I can throw it's my identity, my name going into your journal that will be published within 2 days, then I better call for withdrawal. So for those of us in academics who know the worth of quality work, I think it's a blessing. And it's a big instrument to tidy up universities, to see that we have great outputs coming up, not minding when this paper will be, the review of this paper will come out. But if we do a good job, I look forward to sending my papers to blind review journals, 2-3 blind reviews that I will keep. I have a paper now that, I sent out 5 years ago to IndaScience. Yeah, sorry, I have to mention them because they did a great job. IndaScience has not published that up to date. However,
it's 7 o'clock.
It's in the pipeline. I can trace the database to know where the paper is. Actually in the publication pipeline now, However, the paper is not out. And I'm happy that when the paper will eventually come out, although there are implications, because a paper that was cited 5 years ago, by the time the paper comes out, it's not going to be current again. But then, what are they doing to ensure that they have their hands on deck, to ensure that errors are minimized in production? So for senior colleagues, that is where we want to tie our names to. And those who are our mentees too, when they see our name, in good journals, either Africa or internationally, they follow suit. And that is what the kind of lessons that I think we should, continue to teach our students. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Maitami. I will pull up. Actually, it caught me along the way because I wanted to bring up the issue of the pediatric journals. Given their mode of operation, they have become a very big challenge to excellence. They become a big challenge to excellence. These pediatric journals, you mentioned them, you send a paper. On the other end, where the paper is received, you have a husband and wife who perhaps do not have any experience in that area. And some of them, not even up to a day, in a few hours, they tell you that your paper has been accepted. And then you have Dr. Jegede is saying that African journals is slow and steady. But these pediatric journals are not taking it slow. They are very ferocious. My question is, since you have mentioned this, how much of a challenge does that constitute to African-based journals to excel at the international platform? Because many of those who subscribe to these pediatric journals are also Africans. How much does that constitute a challenge for African journals, making impact at the global front, given this challenge of the pediatric journals?
Thank you, Prof. It's really a challenge, because when the issue of predation, came into publication, but I personally, I published some articles, and by the time I saw those articles, about 10 of them, were involved in these journals we mentioned, predatory journals. I was like, in fact, I was so particular about one of a paper that it took me a lot to publish. A lot of dollars went into it. And at the end of the day, I was shocked. However, I let it be, after reviewing the argument of the guy there and all that. But there are issues that could discourage authors. There are issues that could, bring one down if one is not strong in publication. So I let those papers go, and I stopped. Before I will publish now, I have to read the profile of the reviewers. I have to read the profile of the publisher. I have to ensure that the publisher is clean. You have no issue with anywhere in terms of publication. And even though it could, like my colleague from Covenant, it could take a while before the paper would come out, but you are sure that when it would come out, it's going to be clean, it's going to be acceptable, it's going to be globally recognized. So it could discourage those who are just beginning to write. And for beginners too, who have mandates of when to produce certain papers, it's a bit of concern, because peer-reviewed papers, especially when you have open access and you don't have the money and you want to, because finance could be a setback too to publication, a lot, especially to those who are just coming on board and you don't have sponsorship. How do you run this through? So there are quite a number of issues that could be a setback, but in academics, we don't allow such to push us down. There are so many ways by which we can climb a fence. It's either you take it straight or you go around it. If you don't have the money, seek for sponsorship and so many other things that can really pull you. You can also collaborate, like my colleague from Covenant, collaborate with those outside the country, within the country, who have other knowledge of solving these riddles with you, and you will certainly overcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maitami. I think the issue you mentioned, that is one of the issues I wanted to bring forward, because you have mentioned at least I can get three challenges that the African scientists may face in making impact, going global, publishing quality work in quality journals, as well as African journals. One of those you mentioned is institutional policies regarding publishing, where to publish, and how the publications are rated with regards to promotion and things like that. Then the other thing you mentioned is the issue of the pediatric journals and what that constitutes to the African journals, and then you brought the issue of funding, and then finally you hit the nail on the head, the issue of collaboration. I think that is one way we should be moving forward. Whether as an editor or as an author. That is actually how the world has moved on now. You can't sit on your own and make impact. You need collaboration. And that is why forums like this, as you have here, you may not understand the impact this can have. I'm happy that you said that your journals, one of the strategies you're planning is to create this awareness amongst people, providing platforms in which you can encourage people to say your products so that they can buy into it. Let me go back to Dr. Jegede. Dr. Maitami mentioned the last point of his commentary, the issue of funding. And then you said that your colleagues, their key thing is the profile. Is funding a problem for Covenant authors? Is money the problem? I know you're heavily rich.
Prof, thank you very much. Funding, like we said, there's actually no research that you can actually do without funding. They need to have grants. They need to have fund for you to publish. I would say for my institution, is one of the things that I can give kudos to them, that the institution strives so much to fund research. They fund research, but in as much as the institution is doing that, of recent the institution is doing a lot to be able to, for faculty to have grants, and quite a number of my colleagues are having grants already. In fact, last 2 weeks in my faculty, I call it my college, we are having seminars all the time of people learning how to seek for grants. The last 2 weeks is what we have been doing, having series of seminars, training faculties to be able to seek for grants, because we have now recognized the fact that the institutions alone cannot fund research. If institutions alone are funding research works, there's a form of limitation for where we can go to, and the bedrock for any form of institution is research work. So based on this, I think the aspect of grant seeking is something that Covenant University is actually looking at. Like I said, we've been having series of seminars on that, and how do we do that? Because the colleagues that have been able to get grants are training others to be able to look for grants. Funding is very important when we talk about research, and like I said earlier, the institution has tried a lot to fund research work, and like I said, there's limitation to that. So we are now looking in areas whereby we get grants to be able to help in research work.
Okay, so money is still a challenge for you. The rich also cry.
Yeah. When you're talking about research needs funding. We all agree that we need funding for research. When you're talking about African, one of the basic things that is a step back for African journals and the Western world is funding. Okay. Funding is one of the major problem, and in as much as we don't do that, we don't get fund either locally or
internationally.
Internationally, we won't move far, even in having African-based journals.
Well, yeah, I think it's still coming to the same point, and I think it is on this note that African scientists need to enhance collaboration, because what you mentioned about funding, even if researchers in an institution get the necessary funding they need, they also need support from other colleagues from other institutions, to be able to really make the necessary impact. I see some hands up. Please keep those hands up, keep them up, because we'll soon come back to the audience. But I want to, I have a couple of questions to Dr. Maitomi and Dr. Jegede. Given the scenarios we have described now, it's clear that the African researcher has challenges at the international front, whether coming from the institution, whether coming from the global threats to excellence in science posed by pediatric journals, or whether it concerns funding. For you, Dr. Maitomi, I want to ask you now, because you are an editor of a journal. How optimistic or how hopeful are you that African journals in engineering and information technology would be making global impact? And in addition to that question is it possible for you to give a timeline to your journal is 2 years, a timeline, you say, okay, in the next 5 years, next 10 years, next 20 years, I want to, I believe that my journal will be making a necessary impact. So how optimistic, how hopeful are you that African journals will make an impact? And is there a possible timeline you are looking at that this may happen?
All right, thank you, Professor Nworu. This is quite interesting. In every situation, we have to keep evaluating ourselves. And the moment you stop evaluating yourself, I think that's when one is close to the grave. Even as a professor, you need to keep evaluating yourself. You evaluate yourself through your students. How many PhD have you produced? Where are they and what are they doing? Yes, with your help and with the help of other global communicators in research, we have collaborated with you in a number of discussion apart from this in terms of research. One of my passion, one of my passion is to teach research, and that was where I had my postdoc in Michigan. I did software engineering, but I'm not living development, but I have the passion to teach people, because I discovered that is one of the major challenges we have in Africa. How to put our voices down to ensure that we don't copy someone's voices. We don't imitate someone's voices on Google, Classroom or other public domain. How do I translate my ideas on paper that people will read clearly, and keep looking for you because they are hungry and thirst for knowledge to get more from you. So I think we would not stop, doing the right thing. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that without playing down on the standard in writing, we would keep doing that. We'll keep promoting, we keep sharing ideas, and I know that we will grow the number. Once we can grow the number, then the other question will come in. Where can the journal be in the next 5 years? Yeah. Taylor and Francis has a mission. The frequency of your journal and the quality will grant you access to collaborate with them. Once the quality is not, in any way forgotten, and you have built database to follow you in what the mission you have, I think Schlumberger company do have a say that the sky has no limit. I think in the next 5 years, we would keep evaluating ourselves that we will not be where we are today. Certainly may not be the last in terms of African journals, but then we would keep hoping that we'll fall among the best journal in Africa. So there's hope, especially when we do the right thing. Thank you.
Right, that is great. I think that's a very important part. In the next 5 years, you are optimistic that your journal will be one of the best in Africa. It is very optimistic to note that, and I think you can work towards that. Every journal started from somewhere. Every journal started from somewhere. I am in the area of medicine, health sciences. I remember when I was doing my PhD, and then there were some journals. At that time, I was interested in doing research in pediatrics, that is children. And I remember in those days, you have the top pediatric journals. And there was this journal called the Journal of Pediatrics. That was run by it's a subsidiary of the American Medical Association at that time. That journal was, I think, the third or the fourth at that time when I was in my PhD. But today, it is the toughest journal in the world. Okay, it is toughest journal. You know, in publishing is even though even if it's within the academic circle, publishing is also a business. Business strategies. And so what they did was that they changed the brand. They changed the brand. The American Medical Association has a journal called Journal of American Medical Association. It's called JAMA. It's one of the toughest journals in the world. And so this journal in pediatric was one of its journals, and they have Journal of Internal Medicine and different journals they had. So around, I think 10 years ago, they changed the brand and made all of these journals into one umbrella. So you have the main JAMA, then you have JAMA Pediatrics, JAMA Internal Medicine. So just attaching the name of the toughest, one of the toughest journals in the world to these other journals, raise their profile that people want to be associated with JAMA whatever. And today, JAMA Pediatrics, which was one of around the fourth journal in the world in those days, has become #1. It was a matter of branding. Okay, so there are different things that can be done to make a headway. All right, so thank you for that, just to chip in. And then finally, Dr. Jegede, let me ask you the same question. You don't have a journal you're editing, but as an academic, how hopeful and how optimistic are you that African journals will make a global impact?
Thank you very much, Prof. I'm very, very positive about this because, like I said, looking back, I will seriously talk about my field, where I am in my field, because 10 years ago, there was very limited platform whereby even within Africa and outside of Africa, where people in my field could publish, and they are sure that they are high-rated journals. But now, publishing in my area of my field has become much easier over the last 10 years, let me say. So I'm very, very optimistic that for African-based journals, in the next 5 years, 5 is the right word to use. In the next 5 years, I'm seeing a lot of improvements going on. Like you said now, Dr. Matomi here now, his journal is just 2 years plus. He is of the opinion that in the next 3 years, they are going places. So making it more like 5 years time, I'm seeing African journals having this very strong base because so many things is coming towards Africa. In fact, research itself is shifting towards Africa now. We're talking about developing country. There's a lot of opportunity here within Africa that research are based, especially in my area. When we're talking environmental sciences, there are a lot of opportunities that can bring forth research, and more publications are coming up. And because we are saying fund, people will look inward. That is what will boost African journals, because fund, they will be, at one time, I wanted to publish in one open access. And what's the kind of money they were requiring, they were asking me to pay. I thought about it and no, if I don't have a grant for this, I can't publish in this. I stepped it down. So we are now saying that if I have a journal that is African-based that are not asking for such money, even if it's an open access, we will publish there. So we see more people publishing in African journals, and you will see these journals having high rating. Like I said earlier, that is if they don't relent in having a thorough review process. That is a problem that might not make these journals to step up if the review process is not done well.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Mike Tommy and Dr. Jegede. We'll return back to you now if we get questions. But just to also highlight one thing Dr. Maitobi mentioned, one of his passions to train and to build the capacity of researchers. I think it's very important to recognize that research is a continuous process. There is no time that you get to a point you said, well, I have done all that needs to be done, because we keep learning, as we progress in our human development, we get new ideas, we get improvement in the way we do things, and so we need continuous professional education. And I think that is one of the things that really have discouraged many African researchers. And I'm sharing this from the experience we have generated from the platform we have built here, the African Science Frontiers Initiatives, interacting with African researchers during the past 3 years. We have come to the point where we see that people are desirous to build their capacity. And once they come to gain some of those skills, it helps to boost their skills in doing better. We have seen people who have attended our trainings and have gone forward to win prestigious grants. We have seen testimonials of people who have attended our trainings who were not able to even know how to start their papers, have gone to publish it in reputable journals. So it is very, very important to emphasize the point that capacity is needed. Capacity is needed so that people can begin to produce excellence. And because of that, we have the new course I introduced. We are starting next month. Was a child of necessity. People coming to say, well, I don't know how to improve my research really. And then we think there is a need to support people in that. It's not a problem only of Africa, it's a problem everywhere. And so there is need for continuous capacity building. That is the point I'm making this evening. And then we should be able to strive to look for those opportunities and utilize them. And one of those platforms is what we have with you this evening, the African Science Frontiers Initiative. The goal is to bring Africans together to think about what they do, why they do it, and how they can improve. All right, I saw your hand before, Dr. Ola Lekins. Please, you have something to add. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, my prof. I appreciate the gesture. I appreciate the gesture, sir. My contribution has been mentioned by Dr. Fuluke from Dr. Jegede from Covenant University. For our Africans, probably a research firm, publication firm, journals to be on the same periphery with IEEE, Scopus, and the likes. I think it has to do with our universities giving recognition to African journals. If African journals are now recognized for vis-a-vis promotions, evaluation, and the likes, I don't see us coming up to realities of, because like Dr. Matami said earlier on, that publishers that are publishing 2 days could have some hindrances, some clauses that how can I submit the paper and in 2 days you are saying is it being blind reviewed, and they may not do a thorough work on the analysis and the things like that. That is understandable. But if you have to wait too long for 5 years, like you said earlier on, science intern, I think I did a write-up with them. It's yet it has not been published and it's going about 6 years now. Things like that, you may look at the impact factors and look at how much they've contributed, and you want to say, what have they said? How log is taking this, how log is taking that. This will contribute an hindrances to what African universities are using, because your webnomics is a factor of how much paper you have been presented, how much of your rejection you have gotten, how much acceptance you have gotten, what are the percentage of your Turnitin, your plagiarism levels, stuff like that. These are things I think if African journals need to be recognized to have high impact values, it has to come from we recognizing them and not looking at how much volumes are published, how much years have been into circulation. Because you can start now, can start this year and have a high impact, give a good publication, environmental issues, relevance to the environment could come in as a year 6. These are things I think we should look into when giving values to African journals. This is my contribution, sir. I thank and appreciate. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have Bankole Mojishola. Please, the floor is yours. Bankole Mojishola.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, sir. From here, I'm Bankole Mojisola from Babcock University, one of the students of Dr. Mike Tommy. I want to sincerely appreciate the fact that collaboration is going to help us in Africa, when it comes to writing journals, and it will make us go places in Africa. If we have people like minds that can, collaborate together to do something tangible and present it, like, coming together and make a very good presentation when it comes to journal writing, it's going to really help us, and it will progress. It will make progress to be very fast when it comes to journal writing. Then another thing I observed is this predatory journal is getting the rate at which it's going in Nigeria. It's uncalled for. When you give your work to someone, to publish for you, or when you want to, you just discover that they just do a wishy-washy thing, and then at the end of the day, you will not like the outcome of that journal. And before you know it, you did not see anything. Like I had a work that I published on ResearchGate, and it was trending very fast, and I'm so happy about that. So in Africa too, we can do something like that. And I'm very sure that with the help of our dear Dr. Mike Tommy in Babcock University, we will go places. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you, Bankole Mojishola. I think this point have been noted, and I think within the discussion we have had this evening, you could already begin to pick out the way forward. And one of the things I've observed from the discussion we have had is that there is a tripod relationship here. One is that the African scientist should not be spoon-fed, meaning that you need to be prepared, because the world we live is a world of competition. It's a world of competition, and so it's a world of excellence. So we need to be ready as scientists. We need to have the capacity. Then one of the challenges also comes from the institutions. The institutions also have rules to play to make African journals and African scientists visible. And then the third one is the journals themselves. The journal themselves need to develop strategies that they can use to scale through the hurdles that are here, and they need to develop strategies. I think with this, it will be very important to see African journals making the relevant impact. To be frank with you, and I think Dr. Tommy will agree with me and Dr. Jegede, if Africa will publish in the area of engineering and technology, if Africa will publish everything that it produces in terms of research, if we single out one journal in Africa to publish all those, I don't think you will have too much competitors, because many of the things that are coming from Africa are untapped knowledge that are of interest, and people would want to read these things. So we need to do quite a lot to push that forward. We have Dr. Waro's research tips and tricks, a monthly program, and that comes up on Friday. The edition in April is actually on pediatric journals, how to identify them, how to deal with them, So I think that would be a good opportunity to come to such a forum. All right, I have Dr. Emma Sop. Let's hear your voice, and then we can call it an evening. Good evening, Emma, please.
Thanks, Brian. I think
Emma, the floor is yours.
One of the most important things that can improve the publishing process in journals in any field is fostering and encouragement of multidisciplinary research and multidisciplinary collaboration across Africa, and encouraging engagement of the community and engagement of the public in the field of research. This will help improve and solve the local community problems, which will make a connection between journals, community, and researchers. This will help improve the authorship area or profile across journals, improve the topics and research articles and research projects published in these journals, and give them the local and the global importance. And as we discuss the engineering and information technology, we see that artificial intelligence is now making a great improvement and engagement in different fields like science, like medicine, and these are areas new and still underestimated and underutilized in Africa. The data sciences and utilization of data already present in Africa could improve this process and help journals have a better visibility and become a motivation for the authors to publish in these journals, because the journals will have a great impact on the community and also will be reputable in their field. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. This is very important. Multidisciplinarity. It can be overemphasized. Can't be overemphasized. That is very important. If African scientists, African journals want to strive to the top, then multidisciplinary research is a way to gain such impact. All right, it has been a wonderful evening discussing these issues. These are germane issues. They are not simple issues. They are not simple issues. Our goal is to be able to see how we can move our continent forward from different perspectives and from different disciplines we are involved. This discussion shouldn't end here. When you go to your institutions, let's continue to discuss these issues. How can African journals gain their places in in the world? How can we gain our places in the world? Eman is informing us that please help to evaluate the session. And so I would like to thank Dr. Stephen Maitami from Babcock University for the insight he has shared with us this evening, and Dr. Foluke Jegede from Covenant University from the insight she has also shared with us. And I hope that you have gained one or two things from this evening discussion. To bring it to a close this evening, just to say that the 4th edition of the Science Seminar Series will be taking place on the 30th of April. And that will be in the field of arts and humanities. This evening, we have looked at engineering and information technology. We want to go to the field of arts and humanities to understand what is happening there. What's happening there. So please join us on that date to explore this area. All right, the 14th edition of Dr. Warren's Tips and Tricks will be coming on Friday, 31st of March. And that will be on science and research visibility. Let them be known. Let them be known. Everyone is striving for visibility, and I don't think there is anyone who is represented here who wants to say, I don't want to be visible. All right. From the insight we have shared this evening, you see that you can be visible in the wrong way. You can also be visible in the right way. You can go the wrong path. You can go the right path. But how do you know which is the wrong path? How do you know which is the right path? And how do you bring together the building blocks that will make you to become visible in the right way? Well, I will not answer those questions this evening. If you want to know what it means to be visible, how do you become visible? How do you become visible in the right way? How do you become visible in the wrong way? Please join us on Friday. We will pour it all down to you. All right. Then, just to remind you again, some of the things we have touched on this evening: quality, productivity, and impact. The course on your screen will give you all. It will give you all. And I tell you, by the time you go through this course, you will be in a place of gratitude. You'll be in a place of gratitude because it will be expository. All right. So please register if you have not registered. This coming Friday is the last date to register to this course. And those who are ASFI members, please take the advantage of the discount that has been given. If you are not a member yet, you can still register and then you apply for this course and take the advantage of your membership. All right. I think this is a place we can call it an evening. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and I wish you a very wonderful week as you journey into the week. All right, you can unmute yourself and say bye-bye for this evening. Thank you again to our panelists, Dr. Maitami and Dr. Chikide.
Thank you, Professor Waru, for the invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Prof. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.